And as it relates to Tua, Chris Greer addressed him as well. One thing he said was, I think we're good with Tua. And, you almost need to hear him say it and read him as he says it. The one that really caught me, though, is he was asked whether or not Tua can be elite. And Greer said, I can't say he can't be, which I can't say he won't be. I can't say he can't be. I mean,
that's not a ringing endorsement. I wouldn't be like, right. Oh, man, they believe in him, and he's going to be amazing.
Right. But it's an accurate assessment of the situation. I feel like they're going to try to will him into becoming a better quarterback than he's been. And maybe Mike McDaniel's the guy to do it because of the offense, as you discussed. The way that they're going to operate that side of the ball, the way that they'll use Tua Tagovailoa. And that's the ultimate test of good coaching. We heard some of that yesterday from various people, and it's simple. It's the idea that you take what you have and you tailor your offense and your defense to the talents, the skills, and abilities of those players. So Mike McDaniel knows what he has in Tua. I mean, he thrived as the offensive coordinator last year in San Francisco with Jimmy Garoppolo, who has his own limitations. And
no doubt about it.
That's going to be the challenge for McDaniel. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then at some point they move on from Tua. And maybe they're currently quietly looking for an upgrade if they can get one, but it just looks like this year isn't going to be the year because some of these guys who we thought were going to be on the move aren't going to be on the move. And if they're out of the Deshaun conversation, then I don't know where the clear upgrade to Tua is. It's not like Tua's horrible, right. But the question is, if you want a franchise quarterback, he's not it yet. And he can be. We're not saying he can't be. We're just saying based on what we've seen so far, he's not yet. Only 5 to 10 guys can be among the top 5 or 10, and he's not one of them.
That's right. No, that's right. It's a tough question. The elite in the NFL right now is extremely elite. They're special. Tua's not in that class. And really, I'll go as far to say as I don't know if that'll ever happen, really. I don't. I mean, I see limitations. But that doesn't mean you can't win and be successful with them like we've talked about before. We have enough teams here over the last decade that have made deep playoff runs, got to the Super Bowl, even a few that won the Super Bowl without elite quarterbacks, right? It's tougher. We know that for sure. There's less wiggle room and error for play and everything there. But I think, to your point and what we talk about with McDaniel, I think that is part of the reason he got hired. I do. I think Miami feels the pressure about Tua. One, there's a tremendous backing down there, and he has a tremendous following like we've talked about before. I mean, Tuanon was a damn thing. Tuanon. I mean, we literally went 8 weeks talking about that. That's how bad
not
big
was,
the backing is.
Is.
It is. I know. You're right.
Is.
I've just stopped. I've ignored it now. I don't even pay attention to it anymore. So screw you, Tuanon. But after that, it's so I think they feel the pressure of that. They feel the pressure of, wait, we took this guy 2 steps over, or 2 picks over Justin Herbert, and they want to make it work with him. I think for all the reasons stated above there. And I'm not saying they can't, again, but we've seen some things at least to question to go, that's a little concerning. Oh, the game in Tennessee this year, big game, got to play the Titans. It's a cold, a little drizzle day. Tua dropped the ball once. He threw some bad interceptions, lost control of the ball. We've seen him up in Buffalo not play that well there either. So those are the things that I think, we still need to see improvement or growth. But I will say that I think he's in a system finally with McDaniel that will really have a lot of answers for him and accentuate the things he does really well and limit the things he doesn't do really well. And I'll say this too, Mike, and I don't think Mike McDaniel would be mad at me for sharing this. Talking to Tua just off camera before we did our little interview with him yesterday, I felt like I saw genuine excitement from him when he talked about Tua. He did. I don't think he's like, oh, man, I've gotten stuck with a bad quarterback, but this was the only job that offered me, and I'm going to make it happen. I think he likes his athleticism. He thinks it's going to work, right? We know Shanahan, McDaniel love the bootlegs, moving the quarterback, the quick play action passes. That's going to fit Tua. Tua's got he does have a quick release. It's smooth that way. It's not an overpowering arm, but he does throw a nice catchable ball. And I think those are things you can build on and win around. I do say that. As much as I know people think I hate Tua, I don't. I just have had my questions. That's all there is.
The other side of the equation, too, and I think McDaniel addressed this yesterday in his press conference, they need a backup who can come in and go if Tua would get injured. And McDaniel was in San Francisco when the alternatives to Jimmy G were Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard, and we saw what they did or didn't do when Garoppolo was injured. You got to have a plan B. You got to have a guy who can come in and play. You know, Marcus Mariota is going to be a free agent this offseason, and I've seen his name bandied about in different circles, and Browns fans either are fascinated or up in arms about the possibility of him being the alternative to Baker Mayfield. But if we're talking about skill sets, if we're talking about starter gets injured and you want to plug in a guy who can do what the starter does, Mariota makes a lot of sense.
He does.
As the backup to Tua Tagovailoa.
It does. Similar background too, right? You know, I mean, there's I think there are some things there, and of course, it's a similar can be a similar style of play. But to your point, I think you said it right. You know, when it comes to Mariota, he's a much bigger man than Tua. I'm scared of his last name still. He's a much bigger man than Tua. He does have a stronger arm than Tua, and then to your point. Again, this is Mike McDaniel where they've, toyed Shanahan and them with some of the quarterback run stuff and Trey Lance last year and all that. Now you got a guy like Mariota there. It makes sense. I can get behind that. I understand that. But Mariota's going to be sought after. He's going to be up there he's going to be in the conversations of Band-Aid starting quarterback or high-end backup quarterback. And I think there is, like you said, there's been a lot of chatter about him. There's going to be a big market for Mariota. He's going to have a lot of options.
And what the Dolphins would pay him would be fascinating because they're in year 3 of the Tua rookie contract, so they can carve off a little extra money in the overall quarterback budget for their backup, and that would make waves. Once we see what he would get in Miami if he would land there, we'd be like, oh, boy, he's making more money than Tua, and he would be, at least in salary for this year. I mean, Tua's main compensation came from his signing bonus, but when you get to year 3 and year 4 of that rookie top 10 quarterback contract, the money isn't great. Kyler Murray, for example, $5.5 million is his compensation for this year. Now, again, the big chunk came when he signed his signing bonus in 2019, but that's where Tua is in year 3 at a low number, so you got more of your overall quarterback budget that can go to the backup.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.